Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Podcast with Robert Ikard. I would like to go over a couple of things about buying a property, and these things kind of apply to either commercial or residential. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both. I've experienced with both, and I think there's some certain things that are important to do before, if you want to go down the road of acquiring rental properties. There's some things you need to do beforehand. The first thing is to figure out your financing. I wrote that on here, financing. The financing is important because if you don't know what you can afford, you're wasting your time, and maybe if you're working with an agent, you're wasting a lot of people's times. A seller, you can waste a lot of people's times if you don't know how you're going to line up how you're going to acquire the property. So whether they call it a capital stack a lot of times in commercial, and that's a fancy word for describing how you're going to get the money to buy a property. So what is a capital stack? I'll just say briefly, it can be money you put in cash. It can be possibly equity from other properties that you're going to pledge to buy the new property. It could be you could go out and sell. Let's just say you're a company that maybe a REIT, and you sell stock, and you can generate money that way. You can have partnerships. They can bring in money. Partners can. There's just a lot of different ways to, of course, bank loans. To generate or to come up with the money you need to buy a specific property. So that's number one. And if you're buying a home, it's the same thing. You got to know what you can afford. Interest rates are changing all the time, and right now they're going up, or they've been going up. And so that makes what you can afford, if you're going to finance a property, you can afford less home. A less expensive home as the rates go up. And the other thing is the details. So, for example, if you sit down and you say, well, this is what I'm looking for. And it's not always so clear in commercial, but residential, you can say, I need this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms. I want to be in a certain range as far as square footage. Now with commercial, you can also have details, but there's just a lot of people who look for commercial properties don't necessarily always know exactly what they're looking for. They have a financing, they have a dollar amount, and they have a general idea of what they're going to buy, but they don't necessarily always have exactly what they want, like you would with a home. Moving on, location. I have a friend who's a real estate agent here in DFW, and he took some clients of his around. He's a residential real estate agent, and he took some clients of his around and showed them, I think he told me, over 100 properties. Okay, so that's one way to go about it. I think his client was really learning the area. It's a big metropolis, and he was learning it with his realtor. Well, that's okay, but it's really not okay to a realtor. You really should learn the city on your own. Actually, when I moved to Dallas, we rented for a few years because I didn't understand it well enough to just go and buy a home. And then I found what area I wanted to live in, and then I knew the financing, I had that lined up, the details of the home I wanted, and then the neighborhood I wanted to live in. So that's usually a much better way to go. And then you have other considerations with rental properties. Is if you have a rental property and it's 30 minutes, an hour away. In my case, I have some that are 1,500 miles away. Those are hard to manage. but you can manage them better if they're a commercial property, because the tenants fix the things. The landlord isn't expected to fix everything except the roof, and you still have concerns. And then when you have a property go vacant, that can become an issue. So I'm not saying you always have to invest in your own backyard, but like, let's say, for example, rental homes. If you're going to be doing some of the work or a lot of the work on a rental property, it's a lot easier if it's 5 minutes away from your house than if it's an hour away, because to go fix a little thing can cost you hours of your life if you're going to be doing that kind of thing. So those need to be good considerations. But you can always find people to do things, but it's expensive to hire everything out, especially if you're just getting started. And so that's a little summary of how to buy commercial and residential properties. Thank you.